Hello and welcome. It is 11:30 Central Standard, so we will get started. Thank you for tuning in to today's webinar, Best Practices for Teaching Soft Skills. My name is Kelsey and I will be your moderator today. Presenting today, we have Emily Kuhn, who is the Senior Campaign Specialist at Realityworks for over 10 years. She collaborates with educators and administrators to understand how they are implementing Realityworks products and programs into their schools. Over time, those educators have also shared great tips on teaching soft skills in the classroom, which is where many of today's tips come from. Emily is a frequent presenter on topics regarding soft skills and student engagement at education conferences, webinars, and professional development. Before we get started, I want to cover a couple things. First, today's presentation has been pre-recorded and all attendees will receive a link containing the recording, as well as a copy of the PowerPoint slides and free resources. For those of you attending live today, you will also receive a certificate of completion for attending today's presentation. Keep an eye on your email. You will receive that email within 24 hours after the presentation, and we will have time at the end for Q&A, so feel free to type your questions in the chat or Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pass things over to Emily.
Well, thank you, Kelsey. Like Kelsey just said, my name is Emily, and I am excited to be here today to talk with you about teaching soft skills to today's students. Let's jump right in. Over the next 40 minutes or so, we are going to share a whole bunch of information with you. We'll kick things off by briefly reviewing what Realityworks is. Then we'll jump into who are today's students, and we'll talk about the characteristics that make them unique. We'll share some great tips for teaching soft skills that I've gotten from conversations with educators and industry representatives over the last decade or so here at Realityworks. And then we will share a little bit of information about Realityworks' own soft skills programs, and we'll conclude with some great free resources that you can use immediately. We'll also have time for questions and answers at the end of today's presentation. So if you have a thought or a question as I'm chatting today, feel free to type that into the chat or save it for the end of the webinar, and we'll address everything at the end. All right, well, first, let's start by introducing Realityworks for those of you who aren't familiar with us. We at Realityworks, we are an employee-owned company based in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, that creates experiential learning tools for teaching job and life skills. We actually got our start over 20 years ago when former NASA engineer Rick Germain created the very first RealCare Baby infant simulator, and then went on to found the company that is now Realityworks. Today, our training tools combine curriculum with hands-on learning experiences, student activities, and assessments. RealCare Baby actually is still around, but now you can look to us for all sorts of other tools, many of which are shown on your screen right now. We offer simulators for teaching artificial insemination and welding. We offer wearable geriatric sensitivity suits. If you've got some time, we encourage you to check out our website and see it all. All right, well, let's dive in. Let's look at, for a moment, the faces of career and technical education. Who are today's students? Well, today's students are digital natives. Most of today's students were born after 1997 and are therefore members of the post-millennial Generation Z group. The oldest of these students are in their mid-20s, and the youngest are about the age of my oldest child, which is 11. They are considered digital natives because they grew up with technology. They have never known a world without smartphones. Now, this unique relationship with technology is shaping their experiences, their behaviors, and their expectations in various domains of life, including education. According to the most recent Census Bureau data, about 20% of the US population, or 68 million Americans, belong to Generation Z. And although over a third of them either hold jobs or are self-employed, 51% are still students. And the needs of all those Gen Z students in your classrooms today continues to change the way we teach. For instance, the standard classroom model, where an educator just stands in front of the class and lectures the entire time, doesn't work with today's students. Research shows that Generation Z wants to learn and succeed, but they will disengage with the discussion if they don't feel connected or if they don't feel that they see the relevance of what they're learning. Today's students want to know how they'll apply what they're learning to the real world. That relevance is super important. Now, it is important to note that compared to millennials, these students are remarkably different. They're different in how they learn and in how they view the world. Millennials, of course, were born in a world without the prevalence of social media and technology like smartphones. I myself am an older millennial, and I can still very clearly remember what it was like to not have a cell phone. Millennials like me witnessed the evolution of technology, while Gen Z students like yours were born and raised immersed in it. And this difference is a double-edged sword. Research shows that on the one hand, Gen Z students seem to be experts in technology to the point where they need minimal management. You've probably witnessed this yourself. However, on the other hand, their generation is characterized by a lack of concentration, which is deeply affected by smartphones and social media. So here's where that word relevance comes in again. More than ever before, these students not only want to see the relevance of what they're learning, but they need to see it in order to stay engaged. Now, quick note, I'm going to share a variety of statistics and information with you throughout today's presentation. Feel free to take notes, but as you learned in the introduction, I just wanted to remind you, folks, we will be sharing the PowerPoint slides with everyone after today's webinar. So don't worry if you see a stat or you see a chart that you want to make sure you save, you'll have access to all of this following today's presentation. So with that, here's a chart you might want to save for later. I love this chart. It shows a descriptive comparison by generation in learning preferences. Now it's small on your screen, but what I just want to highlight here is that last column on the right. That showcases Generation Z's get it now, do it now, learn it now mindset. These students prefer visual and interactive, bite-sized, hands-on learning experiences. There's some other great information on this chart as well. Feel free to dive in following today's presentation, but the takeaway here is that by learning how this generation prefers to learn, we can adjust the way we teach. So now let's address soft skills. What are soft skills? Well, soft skills are also known as a variety of terms: employability skills, job readiness skills, emotional intelligence. There are many phrases used to describe them, but they all mean one thing. They're the personal attributes that enable someone to interact effectively and harmoniously with other people. They're considered the bedside manner of the workplace. Now, we've heard others say, and we agree, hard skills might get you in the door for an interview, but soft skills will help you get and keep a job. And most importantly, that concept applies for any job. Soft skills are vital for all career paths. Now, research shows, of course, that soft skills like teamwork, empathy, patience, and critical thinking are used in offices and at work sites across the country every day, and that demand for those skills just continues to grow. Way back in 2014, CNBC conducted a poll that found that 44% of employers cited soft skills as the biggest gap in the US workforce. 5 years later, in 2019, LinkedIn's Global Talent Trends survey found that 92% of professionals reported that soft skills were equally or more important to hire for than hard skills. And 89% that when a new hire said that when a new hire doesn't work out, it was due to a lack of those critical soft skills. Now, fast forward to today, in today's post-pandemic workforce, research continues to show that soft skills are more important than ever. After all, the way that so many people work has undergone huge changes. Many have been forced into different routines and new ways of connecting with colleagues. I'm personally presenting this webinar from home myself, as about 80% of Realityworks employees now work permanently from their home offices. For so many, there has been an increased importance on time management and productivity. All of these skills continue to matter, and the key here is that they continue to matter even more than they ever have before. If you're looking for a way to jumpstart conversations with your students about these important soft skills, we have included a free poster. You can see it on the right side of your screen now, that you can download for free from our website anytime. There's a URL on your slide. Visit it, check it out, fill out a brief form, and you can access this poster on soft skills, plus a variety of others. Could be a really fun way to just get your students thinking about those important soft skills anytime. So with that, let's talk about how you can teach soft skills in your classroom. Again, these tips and tricks that I'm going to share largely come from conversations with educators over the last couple of years. These educators represent a variety of career and technical education pathways and focuses, but you're going to notice a theme, and that theme is that these educators, even though they all focus on different topics, they're all doing little things to help their students hone those vital soft skills. So with that, this first tip comes from a family and consumer sciences teacher in North Carolina named Ashley. Ashley really values teamwork in her classroom. Teamwork is, of course, the mix of interactive, interpersonal problem solving and communication skills needed by a group of people working on a common task toward a common goal. And in a conversation with Ashley recently, she shared with me the benefit of teamwork in her FACS classroom. Specifically, any assignment that involves collaboration helps her students hone their ability to work in teams, so she does this often. She assigns group work to foster teamwork whenever possible. And you can do this as well, of course. You can assign in class time to research a topic and present as a group. Make sure you require that each student spend an equal amount of time not only researching, but also presenting. And of course, as you do this, emphasize the value of teamwork by debriefing. You could ask your students following a group work assignment, you could ask them to reflect on how did they feel during the activity? What challenges did they face? What did their team have to do to be successful? And what would they do differently next time? Any opportunity to foster, to assign group work is an opportunity to foster teamwork and communication skills and their ability to work in those all-important teams. Our next tip is to begin each class with a handshake. We all know, of course, that a good handshake is a skill that can make a huge impression in any setting, particularly a business one. And this is a skill that you can help your students start to hone right away by starting each day, greeting each of your students with a handshake. This is a fabulous way to not only teach them a soft skill, but underscore the way that you value their relationship. Every morning, if you are able to, greet your students with a handshake and teach them the best practices of a polite greeting. Make sure you're maintaining eye contact, a firm grip, and a smile. This gives them regular opportunities to practice what's really a very basic soft skill, but again, it speaks to your relationship with your students. They see you taking the time to personally greet them every day. Now, there is a link on your slide that links to a YouTube video posted by an educator who did exactly this in their classroom and saw a pretty amazing impact. Highly encourage you after today's presentation to hop on YouTube and watch that video, The Power of a Handshake. It's really quite motivating. Our third tip is to cultivate empathy. Empathy is the ability to identify with another person by sharing in their perspective and feelings. This soft skill is commonly valued in the helping professions like counseling and social work, but it can bring great value to teams in all professions by developing camaraderie and trust. And that's why Wisconsin nursing educator Casey Carlson recommends cultivating empathy at every opportunity, whether it's through reading, a simulation, group discussion, or another activity. For example, you could assign a reading and have students pair up to discuss their feelings on the topic. They could present their thoughts to the class to foster a large group discussion, or they could work on those written communication skills and summarize their discussion in a written report. They could complete a video assignment. They could do all sorts of things to share their thoughts and feelings. But the idea here is to get them to start reflecting on skills like empathy and understanding how they use it every day. Now, another quick free resource for you. There is a link on your screen right now that leads to a free guide that we offer on our website. You can access it anytime. It specifically shares classroom ideas for helping students develop empathy toward older adults, but there is a great empathy self-assessment in that as one of the couple of different activities in the guide that you can use in any classroom to just get your students start thinking about the importance of empathy, the impact of empathy on their daily lives, etc. It's a great free resource that we encourage you to hop on our website and grab as soon as you're able to. Our next tip is to add relevancy with real-world examples. We've used that word a couple times already in today's webinar. The more relevant you can make your lessons, the more your students will engage with the content and connect what you're teaching them with their own futures. And that's why Louisiana culinary teacher Jennifer Ebert recommends incorporating real-world examples about how her students are already using soft skills every day in class as much as possible. You can see that quote from the screen in front of you. She shares how her students have jobs at places like Pizza Hut or McDonald's or whatever, but soft skills are needed in all of them. So she regularly gives her students opportunities to share moments in either their part-time job or maybe an athletic activity when they were able to use a soft skill and how it impacted their experience in that moment. Was it a good impact? Was it a bad impact? What happened? Give your students a chance to talk about those real life moments and reflect on them in class. And again, this is going to be a great opportunity to help them understand and make those connections with the importance of soft skills every single day, currently and in future careers. Another tip is to incorporate scenario-based learning. Scenario-based learning experiences, like role-playing in particular, are great for many reasons. They build confidence, they promote self-esteem, and of course, it's a great method of student-driven active learning, which we know today's students love. Now, of course, classic scenarios that we're all probably familiar with include role-playing job interviews, dealing with customer complaints, and handling disruptive clients. But the educators that we've spoken to for this webinar have shared some new 21st century ideas, like proposing to your students a debate. Do you answer a text in the middle of a staff meeting? Do you check Facebook at work? You might challenge your students to role play a scenario where one of them is working from home and they're being tasked to balance and manage their priorities. How do they budget their time? How do they prioritize, especially when they're working from home and there's no employer right next to them watching what they're doing? All of those types of 21st century dilemmas will add relevancy, there's that word again, to the scenario, and yet still allow your students to utilize the scenario-based learning to make those lessons sticky. Now, if you're looking for more information on scenario-based learning in particular, there's a link on your slide in front of you. We offer a free guide using scenario-based learning to explore careers. You can access it on our website anytime. Although it does focus specifically on career exploration, there's also some great just general information about the value of scenario-based learning and tips for creating your own scenarios that anyone can use in that guide. So highly recommend hopping on our website and downloading that guide as soon as you're able to. Our next idea is to practice professionalism daily. I was recently in an Illinois welding teacher's classroom, and the instructor, who had come from industry, was just lamenting the fact that his students couldn't communicate, they didn't know the value of showing up on time, etc. Well, it occurred to this gentleman that his students might not be required to do things like that on a daily basis, so his classroom was a great place to start. Especially, again, if students are not already experiencing those requirements anywhere else. By demanding professionalism in your own classroom, you're simply going to set your students up to succeed in the workplace. The key to doing something like this is consistency. Not only start by sharing your expectations, but then make your students accountable every day. Every day require that they know that they're expected to arrive on time, come prepared, use proper spelling and punctuation, and possibly even dress for success. Now, we know you're not going to be able to do every one of these items every day, but the idea is to mimic that office environment as much as possible and simply get your students used to these professional habits, whether it's 1 or 2 or 5 or more. Whatever you can do to get them used to those expectations is a great idea and will set them up for those successful futures. Another idea is to implement networking activities. This idea comes from a nursing instructor who once told me that she starts every one of her CNA courses with a networking activity. She has her students pair up to ask each other specific personal questions, and then they stand up as a pair and they introduce each other to the rest of the class. So for her, this activity not only helps her get to know her students, but it creates an atmosphere of familiarity that makes it easier for her CNA students to collaborate later in the semester when they practice soft skills. Of course, this tip may have come from a nursing instructor, but networking and teamwork are important skills for all students. These types of activities, even brief ones, give your students a chance to practice those interpersonal skills and build self-confidence. This is something you can do in any classroom. And another tip here is, again, debrief afterward. Take time to ask your students, what did they learn? Did it feel like a conversation? What would have made the conversation easier or more difficult? What would they change in the future? By giving your students time to reflect on the networking activity that they just interacted with, You're going to help them make their takeaways stick a little more. You'll help them see the relevancy of what you just did. Our next suggestion is to make intentional assignment tweaks. Now, research continues to show that the ability of employees to adapt is actually being called the new competitive advantage. It goes for companies and it goes for employees. These days, demand is growing for individuals who can adapt to an ever-changing workplace, who are open to new ideas, and who don't panic when things don't go according to plan. You can encourage this trait in your students by making intentional assignment tweaks. This idea actually comes from a local technical college marketing instructor whose classroom I was recently helping out with. And she was sharing with the other professionals in her classroom that day that she does this to her students all the time intentionally. She will assign, for instance, her social media marketing students to create a month-long or a week-long social media calendar for a company. She'll give them the business information, all the details that they need to create the company calendar, and then she'll say, you have 2 weeks to do this. And then about a week in, she will intentionally add a new requirement or shift a deadline or flip the business focus. So her students have to, in real time, pivot and shift and adapt. And of course, she works with them about managing feelings of frustration and shares tips on how they might pivot while still making their deadline. But the idea here is to get students used to having to adapt, and that experience will stick with them. These intentional assignment tweaks or changes halfway through can really help your students learn how to be flexible and adapt to change, which again are two very important soft skills. Our next tip is to make time for reflection. We referenced this a few times in today's presentation, but it's so important, it's worth being a tip all on its own. Reflection engages critical faculties. It allows information to become meaningful knowledge, and it helps build an in-demand soft skill, critical thinking. You can encourage reflection in a variety of moments in your classroom. The fun thing about reflection is that it's something people have to learn and practice. So the more you do it, the stronger your students' critical thinking skills will be. The educators we speak with recommend incorporating reflection opportunities like journaling or group discussion at 3 different moments in your classroom, either before something important. For instance, students can run through what they already know about a topic before they begin discussing something in class. You could do it during a long-term project or a task to give students the opportunity to assess their own understanding so far and reflect accordingly. Or, of course, you can incorporate a reflection opportunity after something important. Assessment after a learning experience can give them and you feedback from the experience, and again, encourage your students to make connections. What's more, giving students time to reflect not only helps your students develop those critical thinking skills, but create valuable habits that can help them succeed in the workplace. Our next idea is to use a feedback rubric. Peer review and peer-to-peer feedback are a really great way to help students develop skills like critical thinking and communication. Plus, it's another opportunity to increase student engagement and help your students see the relevancy of what they're doing. If you'd like to incorporate feedback in your classroom, we recommend using a feedback rubric to fine-tune the process and encourage specific suggestions. The educators we've spoken to have also shared the following tips. They encourage you to set expectations. This helps your students see that it's about helping, not judging. They encourage you to share with your students that all feedback is anonymous. This will encourage your students to share, but also keep them comfortable. And then, of course, moderate feedback to ensure that it remains fair and helpful. Start small, like with a short assignment, like the introduction to an essay or an assessment rubric, and move from there. All right, so now that we've shared a couple of great tips from educators on teaching soft skills in any class, I'd like to just briefly review some of the tools Realityworks offers to help you teach soft skills in your classroom. We're proud to offer a variety of employability skills programs that are designed for use in any program or pathway. We offer 3 programs: our employability program, our leadership program, and our contemporary entrepreneurship program. All 3 of these programs use real-world scenarios and activities to help students hone key employability skills within each of those focuses. For instance, the employability skills program helps students build skills like communication and teamwork. Our leadership program helps students build skills like trust and conflict resolution, and then our entrepreneurship program helps students develop specifically entrepreneurial traits. You as the instructor get teacher guides, student workbooks, assessments, and even printable completion certificates in any program. And again, you'll find activities, real-world scenarios, and lessons that are designed for use in any class. If you're interested in learning about any of these programs, we recommend you visit our website. You can access free trials of the online versions of each of the programs, which really are a great way to take a little tour of each program. You'll get access to a full lesson from every program, and you'll be able to view the accompanying instructor guides. You can also see curriculum overviews, lesson samples, and more. So again, if you're interested in learning more about any of these programs, visit that link on your screen and you can get all sorts of details. We also offer a variety of career scenario cards or soft skills scenario cards that are really great for those quick icebreaker activities, discussion activities, and more. These cards were all written by industry professionals. They feature real-world scenarios from specific careers, so students can practice soft skills within the context of actual jobs. If you're wondering how these cards might fit into your curriculum, again, just visit our website. You can actually access 3 free activity cards from 4 CTE pathways: agriculture, health science, family and consumer sciences, and trade skills, to preview the activities and test them for yourself. So if this is something that you're interested in doing, feel free to just visit our website. So now the fun part, let's share some more free resources that you can use immediately. We offer a variety of free printable posters that address in-demand soft skills. You saw a preview of one poster earlier in the presentation, but there's a whole lot more where that came from. If you visit that first link on your screen now, you can access a variety of posters on soft skills and in-demand careers and a variety of other information. We also created a free guide that offers not only 5 ideas for incorporating soft skills in any class, some of which I shared today, but you'll also get access to 5 printable posters on the most in-demand soft skills that today's employers are looking for. So again, that guide is available anytime on our website, you're visiting the URL on your screen now. Finally, I have linked to 2 blogs on the screen as well. Both of these blogs, 12 easy entrepreneurship activities for any class and 3 free lessons to help students develop power skills. Both of those blogs offer not only free ideas and information on teaching those skills in any classroom, but you get free lessons that you can use immediately. So again, all of those links are absolutely worth checking out as soon as you have a moment to. We offer just a great variety of information and resources that you can use for teaching these very important soft skills.
So now what? You can download our soft skills guide that we have linked there. You can start a free trial for our online soft skills programs. And if you are interested in speaking to one of our account managers, you can click on that link and request a consultation. Otherwise, you can scan the QR code here and we will get connected with one of our great account managers that can help you discuss further information on these programs. So with that, we will jump into if anyone has any questions at this time.